This week on The Grid, we're talking about hard truths and helpful lies in photography. Those things we're taught that might be right and could be wrong at the same time. And I've got a special guest joining me in the studio, Serge Ramelli, who was here just the other week, but he's back because Scott's out of town. He's gallivanting around, and we're going to kick it off right now, and it all starts in about 13.47 seconds.
Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs.
The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the tripod alternative that is changing the world. Everybody has a Platypod. You should too. Go to platypod.com.
Well, hey, everybody. We're back, and Serge is back this week.
Hey, thank you for having me, buddy.
Yeah, man. I always enjoy it when Serge is in the studio. We get to just talk about just random stuff. We were just talking about AI and all this good stuff. So this should be a good one because what I wanted to do this week is kind of talk about there's these things in photography that we have that kind of come up that based on your perspective or maybe where you are in your career as well as a photographer. And I know a lot of people watching the show, either some of them have been doing photography for a while, but a lot of them have just kind of started out and kind of in the first few years of doing it. And there's a lot of this information online that we get hit up with it all the way, like left and right. And sometimes it's like, well, is that right? Is that wrong? So I kind of wanted to walk through like these different things and get your perspective on it. And then we can share our collective perspectives and kind of what we think over at KelbyOne as well. So that, I think it should be interesting, and it'll be more of a conversation. So not a lot of looking at images today.
Yeah, but that's fun. That's going to be fun. I love it.
And I like to talk and get to the theory of photography. But before we get into that, we have a bunch of prizes we love to give away because we love to give away prizes here on The Grid. But first, we're going to be giving away a Platypod handle. So this is a great attachment for your Platypod. You can stick it on a Platypod Extreme or a Max, and go ahead and give you a little extension to it. So there's that. Somebody's going to win that today. And then we're giving away a copy of Scott's Crush the Composition book. So you can get this over on Amazon, but somebody's going to win it today. Great book if you're really into learning about probably the most important thing of photography, those things that they don't tell you, composition.
Yeah. But
it's also one of those where it's not really a rules of composition. It's more just telling you about how to look at composition. And that's what I love about it. And it's also like a little bit of like a photography, like, coffee table book with education. So really cool. And then we're going to give away a copy of this useless book, the night photography book.
He's the king of night photography. So, I was going through. I love his stuff. It's amazing.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. So we're going to give away the copy of the night photography book over there. So somebody's going to win that as well. And then we're giving away a copy of my favorite noise reduction plugin, speaking of night photography, On1 No Noise 2024. There's a bunch of great noise reductions now available to us, and AI noise reduction has really changed the game, especially with high ISO like wildlife photography, but night photography definitely. I've changed my whole workflow. In fact, I was talking to the team about it the other day of I've got to re-record a bunch of classes because the classes that we were filming just 4 years ago, I don't even do stuff the same way with night photography because of the tools we have available to us now. It's moving so fast.
It's crazy.
And that's what I think what's so cool about photography now is that we have that. We have so many of these tools and little techniques that we can use to really enhance our photography. And then we're going to give away a V-Flat from V-Flat World. Now, this is for U.S. shipping only, so you just have to have a U.S. shipping address to win this one. Somebody's going to win a V-Flat.
I have one. It's incredible. I use it all the time,
Right? Right? I mean, because it's great that it just folds up and it can fit into whatever vehicle. It's easy to manage, all that good stuff. And then it's got the positive and the negative. So you've got the white side and then the black side. So you can actually take away fill, which I think we were talking about that last week on The Grid, and how important that being able to take away light is just as important as being able to add light.
That's incredible.
And then everybody can get a discount on that, though. They can go get a discount by using the code KELBY10 at checkout, and they'll get 10% off of E-Flat. So how do they win? All you got to do, leave us a comment. We're going to be talking about maybe some controversial things. Maybe we don't want to hear your opinion on it as well. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you'd like to win. And then if you want, share and like the show every time you do anything like that. You're entered in the contest. So we'd love to give you out one of these prizes. So we'll give it away at the end of the show. All right. So let's kick into it. I got a list here, as you see, right?
Yeah, wow, what a list.
I'm going to, so I want to start out with the first one. So these are just starters to start a conversation between you and me and, kind of like our feelings. I think a lot of people would like to know, well, how does Serge feel about this, right? So one of the things that people always talk about is gear is key, right? Mm-hmm. But I would say that the repeatable process is better. And what I mean by that is I think sometimes let's take now and swap the gear conversation to a workflow conversation. What is one step that you repeat on every shoot that makes your photography better? Is there because I think sometimes we get so consumed with the gear.
Yeah.
And it's all about the gear. But I think sometimes that process trumps the gear.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you can take a professional photographer and you give him a phone versus, and you give the Fuji GFX 100S or the Hasselblad 100 million pixel to somebody who doesn't know what he's doing. The guy with the phone will make better photos. But a process that I do every time, it's gonna be stupid, but I like you, I have a coaching program, and 90% of the photo I get is photos taken of amazing subject at the wrong time. So, my process is, arranging my life to be there. And I always hear, yeah, but I was on a cruise and I was...
That's awesome. I love it.
I was with dinner with his family and I couldn't be there. There was always a good excuse why they couldn't be there at the right time. But you might as well give up on photography. For me, that's like standard procedure number one is be there when the light is good,
That's awesome. I mean, that's
and
exactly
what, any gear.
That was exactly what I was hoping for. Is those things that that's what we'll get so obsessed about. Whoa, I need that new lens, but then you'll go out at 2:00 in the afternoon and shoot that awesome location, and you're going, well, I'd rather have an iPhone at twilight than I would having your awesome lens at 2:00 in the afternoon.
100%. I literally do not take photo during the day anymore. I mean, unless you've got a crazy storm.
I mean, there's times, very little times.
But I only look for good lights. But good light could be also during the day. I've had crazy storm where the light was really interesting. Snow, that's really interesting.
Weather is always amazing. Right?
Clouds that have weird shapes. But photography means writing with the light. That's the base. Go for the good light.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I can't agree more. I mean, that's where really...
I mean, you shoot crazy moment of lights, the hottest one, the night one.
Yeah, but what I love about it is because it is such because we can control the light. Night photography is very similar to studio photography. I can bring light to the scene. Yeah, and that's what I love about it is that I can bring light to the scene, or I can play with how I'm going to blend light. A lot of times you're blending blue hour. Because blue hour is a nice soft wrapping light and you get the cool colors, the soft shadows, nothing's harsh. And then you can blend that with a night image, make it look like it was all shot in one exposure. Yeah. Of course, I always like doing it in one exposure as well.
True.
But I mean,
but we're artists. We do whatever we want.
Exactly. But I think the key being there is, I would agree with your assessment, is light is the key. My gear is not so much. Light is the key. Composition is key. Subject is key.
Yeah, you got to have your importance. What is the most important? Composition, I would say, is the most important. Then light is the second most important. Then comes the gear.
Yes, I would totally agree, and I that's maybe what we've been told wrong. What we told wrong is put the gear first. Yeah, and I would say the gear is important, but it's lower on the list.
I mean, I have 12 lenses, and now I use 99% of what I do with my Sony 7R5 is 2470 2.8. That's my go-to because I do books on CDs, and I don't like to go too wide for what I do because I do cityscapes, and too wide on cityscape gets weird with the lines.
Pushing everything away too, gets small.
So there's like 11 lenses that I never use.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's also, as you grow, sometimes you think that, lens is going to do something special for you. If you don't master composition and light, it's not going to do much, But, unpopular opinion, sometime like walking around in Paris, I'm going to put on a 70-300 and force myself to look at Paris with a 70-300 or 200 and discover new composition. That's kind of cool too.
All right, cool.
Anyway.
I think so. I want to go to the next one, which might be a little controversial. Is that we've told editing is cheating, right?
Ooh, I love that one.
And
that's my favorite.
So what I want to know is, where's your personal line between like a tasteful, polished edit and like the digital garbage stuff? Like, where do you draw the line?
Okay, I have to tell you a story. In 2010, I went to Vegas at Photoshop World, and I was visiting Peter Lig's gallery. Now, Peter Lig, if you don't know who he is, he sold like $1 billion photography. There's a lot of controversy about the guy. But there's one thing that he mastered, which I really like, is what I call natural drama. So I was looking at his sunsets, and everybody that was in the gallery was saying, what an amazing sunset. And the sunset were red as red can go. But what Peter Lig does, sometimes he doesn't do it well, but is that he pushes the color, what I call, to the limit of human experience. Meaning, if you just go a little further, you're on Mars. You're not on Earth anymore. You know what I mean?
I know what you're saying.
And what I used to do when I shot 20 years ago, I used to go crazy on my sunset, and people would go, I like it, but you did something to it. As the first emotional reaction. And when I was at Peter Lig Gallery, nobody was saying that. Nobody was complaining that he used a filter or he was editing a photo or anything.
Yeah.
Because it was done right.
Right.
And so I said, okay, my mission as a photographer is going to become to learn that, which I call the natural drama. So you want drama, you want beauty, but you don't want people's reaction to be, oh, you did something to it as a first thing. That's my game as a photographer. I mean, but the reverse is true. I did HDR for many years where it was obviously, a gimmick, especially when I'm talking like 2007 when Photomatics came out.
Yeah. And
we had like this impressionist kind of HDR. I love them. And people love them too. But of course, the first reaction is like, oh, that's not natural. That's a personal thing. I hate when somebody says, you did something to it as the first emotional reaction. So Peter Lig has a lot of money. I think he can hire editors, and he's just doing it the right way. That's what I think. You know? That's my thing on it.
So that's your line, is that you just don't want to push it to the point where people say you manipulated that.
Yeah, it should be obvious.
That's their first line of defense, or the first reaction.
But check this out. If you put an ND10 and you take a photo and you do a 30-second exposure, how is that reality? If you take a 70-200 and you take a portrait and you get this crazy bokeh, unless you got some serious eyes issue, how is that reality?
Well, if you're using a 14mm lens, how's that reality? We
never
see it like stretched and pushed and all that good stuff.
So whether you use hardware or software to distort reality, an ND filter, a lens, or Ansel Adams used to joke about that. He had this red filter and he loved black sky. Black sky are not natural, but he loved it. So you put a red filter and you shoot on film, you get a black sky. And he said, I just love black sky. I just love them. And when somebody used to say, do you edit your photo? He says, well, have you ever seen a black sky? And that was his response, saying, of course I edit my photos, and because he was getting attacked on this already, and now he's like, so it's all about, first of all, we're artists, we're not, we can do whatever we want, but my challenge, is I want to push it to the max where people don't emotionally respond to, oh, you did something to it.
Okay,
that's my line. That's where I draw a line.
Got it. I'm very similar. I mean, I always like to say my style, when it's art, because I think what's helped me is I do both photojournalism and photography.
Right.
And for photojournalism, it is very true to form, right? It's true to form. You want to make it look like just a little bit better than reality, but about reality. Where I kind of like with my photography, I like photorealistic surrealism, where it's like I'm photorealistic, but I kind of like start playing with your mind. Do you think like, ooh, that maybe is manipulated, or maybe that is a little too far, but I'm okay with that. And that's me, is personally, I kind of like that. I like teetering that line.
Yeah, but I'm sure when you were working for SpaceX, you had some like lone exposure Falcon launch, where you had like a 1 second exposure, so it looked like very, the whole launch
looks amazing.
It looks amazing, but it's not reality. Yeah, because a human eye cannot see a 1 second exposure.
Or like when you're shooting the flames and they're coming out and you're shooting at 1/16,000th of a second, it's like you're freezing time so fast that you're seeing details that nobody would ever see.
Yeah,
but it's still cool, and I like it. So yeah, I mean, it's just finding that, teetering that line.
Yeah, JK says, Serge, how do you know where that line is? How far is too far?
Yeah.
Simple. I survey. So I've been doing it for 20 years, so now I kind of know. Yeah. So I put out, on Instagram, on Flickr, on whatever, my photo, and I look at the comments. And if people are like, oh, yeah, you did something to it as the first emotion. You can also do it I do it with my wife. I'm like, oh, what do you think about that? And she goes, oh, that's fake. Just survey your work. And
it's
one thing,
interesting. Yeah, you're right.
And you can survey by yourself. So you do a retouching, you let it rest for a couple of hours, you go look at something and you come back and see what your emotional reaction is. The idea is I want people to go, I want to do what Peter Lake did, like, wow, what a beautiful Monument Valley shot. That's the response I want. I don't want it to be, oh, you did something to it. You used a filter, you photoshopped it. There's different version of that. I hate that. That's my challenge.
Yeah,
but I still want to push it. Like, I will not take a camera and I will not take a photo during the day. I still want the wow.
You're trying to push it into that, like, you want it to be colorful and vibrant. And you want it to be awesome light. So, yeah, I mean, you can't really push a flat midday photo into something amazing.
And I think there's something else going on here is that I remember, I was born in 1970. In 1980, my dad got a color TV. We used to have a black TV, and I thought at first it looked super fake because I'd never seen a color TV before.
Right.
So, if we live in Florida, we have incredible sunsets here. Sometimes the reds are like
incredible,
insane.
Sometimes, like, I'll turn to my wife and be like, I gotta go get a camera. Like, that's going in the sky replacement file. It's just like, you're not going to get that. And
then, but if you do your job right, where you do a couple of exposure and you get the foreground right, and like you see the human eye can see the foreground with some details and the beautiful sky. An iPhone not because they're kind of HDR, but what I mean is like the first time people saw these photos where the foreground was not too dark, and because back in film days when you shoot a sunset, the sunset would be beautiful and everything would be black.
Yeah.
Everything would be silhouette. Yeah. So the first time people started seeing this HDR thing where you could see both, they're like, that looks fake. But that was the first reaction people discovered color TV, Or even like this TV is the 120 hertz, 200 hertz TV.
Yeah.
It looks weird because we're so used to this motion blur.
It's too clean.
It's too clean. But I'm sure our kids, they're going to be like, that's the norm.
That's the norm. That's the norm for them. Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, we got to take a break, but we got tons of more topics like this.
Okay, sorry, I got excited now.
Yeah, I'm excited too because I love talking about this stuff because I think that again, demystifying some of this stuff for people. I think we're taught certain things and said go away from this or don't do that, and we'll be back in a couple minutes with a bunch more topics.
I'm Richard Burnaby, wildlife and travel photographer, and I am so excited to be here in the world's first national park and the crown jewel of the American National Park System, Yellowstone. I am literally standing in the caldera of a supervolcano with geothermal features found nowhere else on Earth, broad valleys teeming with wildlife, and jaw-dropping landscapes. I'm going to guide you through the park and show you how to approach and photograph landmarks so you can capture memories of a lifetime. I'm going to talk about gear, composition, camera settings, the best times of day to go to each location. We will head out to the major landmarks such as Yellowstone Falls, Mammoth Hot Springs, Old Faithful, and the sprawling valleys teeming with wildlife, inspiring you to want to come visit this magical place yourself. Come check out my latest class here in Yellowstone, exclusively on KelbyOne.com.
Have you ever seen a photo where everything in the image frame is rendered as being 100% completely tack sharp and wondered, how the heck did they do that? I'm nature photographer Ian Plant, and I've spent the past 20 years perfecting this exact technique. And so when everything in the image frame looks sharp, I call this deep focus. And in this class, I'm going to teach you how you can get deep focus whenever you want. And I'm going to show you several different ways of achieving the deep focus effect. And some of these might sound a little bit scary, like depth of field and hyperfocal distance, which is the old-fashioned way of getting deep focus. I'm also going to teach you the modern way, something called focus stacking. And I'm going to cut through all of the technical jargon and present these concepts in an easy to understand way that you can practically apply when you're making your own photos. So join me as I demystify deep focus. Available only on KelbyOne.com.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Canon.
All right, we're back.
We're back.
I'm going to kind of build off of the last one we talked about and maybe take another side of it.
Okay.
You know, the statement being, the darkroom never died, it went portable, right? And this meaning, you know, I feel like the people who, you know, there's people in my life who like, oh, it's all about the film and the darkroom and all this stuff. And it's like, well, if we accept, you know, trays and tongs and chemicals, like, why do we get the side eye to sliders in Lightroom? Like, I don't understand that. So what's your thoughts on that?
You know, I visited about last year. I went to the Everglades to see a Clive Butcher gallery, and I spoke to the guy who was retouching his photo for 17 years. And you know, he's kind of like the modern Ansel Adams, still alive.
Yep.
And he shoots Sony now, but when he has a lot of negative, and they spend so much time and money. They have this $100 paper that they put on with a special machine, and they do the dodge and burn. So you know what the dodge and burn is, you know, they project you know, the light through different bulbs, and it can turn some of them off and on to just basically make things darker, brighter locally, like, you know, or they have tools that they use. So it's the same thing in Lightroom, except that it's, you're shaking a spoon instead of brushing.
Exactly.
And I'm sure Ansel Adams would love the brushes in Lightroom. He would go, oh my gosh, because when they mess up, it's $100 gone.
Oh yeah, you got to start over.
You got to start over.
We just hit reset the defaults.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, and I've been shooting a lot of film recently. I bought a Leica M6, and I've been shooting a Prova 400, and I shot Paris, like all my favorite spot. But then I put them to thedarkroom.com. They send me, because I like their scan. The scans are big. So I get big scans, about 4K scans, 5K scans. And then I use my preset, my black and white preset, which I'm just teaching here on KelbyOne. And it looks amazing. And because I do the heavy dodge and burn, even on color, you know, I shoot color, then I put them into black and white.
Okay.
It's the best of both worlds.
Right.
You know?
So you're kind of going in both worlds.
I'm going both worlds.
Now, what do you like about that versus just shooting all digital?
So the reason I did it is because I never done film, and I've been doing digital for 20 years. I did it more as a learning curve and as a challenge, you know, and really learning film. I went hard. I bought the Mamiya 7.2, which is a medium format camera, 120 films. I bought the Leica M6. You know, I bought a 4x5 Japanese, field camera view, you know, with like the big. I brought it to New Zealand with me. I went deep down the rabbit hole of film. I built a film thing. I did the whole thing, and I went back to digital because It's just the same thing. It's just harder. It's just, it's kind of like, driving a stiff-shaped car and then having a...
Well, this is an interesting topic because I have friends that the same route, and I think that most of them do come full circle like you have. But do you think in that experience you had with film, did that help on the digital side?
No, really. I know now film. That's all. That was the only satisfaction I got.
Okay.
It was more like like I'm a photographer. That's what I do for a living. And like not knowing anything about film was like, for me, it was more a study of history to try to understand where we came from. And,
awesome.
But I just sold my Leica M6 2 days ago.
All right. Well, there we go.
Because, I'm like, I prefer digital.
Speaking about back in the day, another one that was had on my list here was dodging and burning in the 1950s is kind of equivalent to masking in 2025.
100%.
Right?
100%. Except I had a friend who in 1970 used to do like what they call developing films, like retouching films. She would spend 19 hours on an image. She would use needles to take out all the people's, all the red. She used to do portraits of movie stars. Like, there's a famous photo of like Clark Gable, 19 hours of retouching with needle to make the skin perfect.
Oh yeah.
It's like, and that can be done with a filter now. So it's all about speed. We used to, we need to ride horses between Paris and Lyon for 2 weeks. Now we have the bullet train, which is 2 hours.
Well, it's like last week when we saw that Retouch for Me plug-in, and that Retouch. I mean, it's
I was like, I'm getting this.
You're going, like I remember off air we're looking at it, but we're both like, I don't know why I would do it the other way.
Yeah, why doing all that?
It's the speed.
I had this whole action that would do the whole, sort of like dodge and burn of the skin, and it just takes so much time. This plugin does it for you, So, things are getting easier and easier and easier. But as a coach of photographer, I still see a lot of people over-retouching the photos where it's like, it's getting ugly, because they're just playing with all the filters.
So what do you think they're struggling with that's making them over-process their photos, especially when tools are getting so much easier?
I think it's a lack of feedback.
Okay.
Lack of feedback, lack of survey. But also, there's something else. It's like a kid. You give a kid a toy to a kid, he plays around with it, he loves it, and then he gets bored. Photographer and filters, they abuse it. They love it. They just got it as a kid. They're like, oh, look, I can do HDR, and then they get tired of it also. So, you have to,
So you're saying like applying like looks and filters, and just throwing presets or plugins on top of stuff.
Yeah, it's just the first time I made an HDR with Photomax, I couldn't believe it. Like I felt I just did like a master painting, and I was like everything was Photomatics, and as I grew older as a photographer, I went for that Peter Lik sort of natural drama look where I just want to show the beauty of the world and I don't want people to have attention on my retouching. Yeah. That's my thing, but some people don't care. I have a student of mine, he just loves the HDR look and he sells on Etsy and it does really well. Yeah. It's my goal as a photographer because I love Peter Lik kind of photography,
And I think that's kind of where I kind of sit and teeter-totter there as well, because I find that clients, the people that support photographers like the push in the envelope, where us as photographers, we'd rather be natural.
Yeah.
So it's like when you go to that next limit, sometimes I find that kind of more jobs open up.
Yeah.
And I think I remember you telling that story about I remember you were doing like the Vegas thing, and like they were like, well, what about the Serge look? We want
we wanted the Serge look, so they got me to replace all the skies,
Yeah.
And it's just my gallery yellow corner the other day. I sent him 5 photos. They're like, take out all the antennas, replace the sky. Like, we don't care. We just want to sell,
Because that's what they want to sell. That's
they want to sell.
People want. People want to kind of push into that, like, they want to look better than reality.
Yeah. And it's funny because I always looked at Peter Lik as, like, the guy who does not, he's always there at the right time, at the best time, it does the best photo. And then I walked in the other day to the Columbus Plaza gallery he has. The Columbus Plaza, right about the entrance. He has like a beautiful gallery there. And the biggest shot you see is Zion National Park with sunset and Milky Way, and it's very bright. And it's obvious. So I went to the guys, like, how did you get the shot? He says it's called time blending. So he was there for the full day, took 4 different photos and blend them. That's not at all reality. But I thought, okay, well, if Peter Lik does that, then, it's, again, it's
I like to do it too.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do it. And by the way, Charles says, I'm reading Eric's book and find it eye-opening. There is so much.
There is so much
to night photography I didn't know.
Yeah, we love it.
Last time I was here, he showed me some photo he shot of with it, Sedona or Des Valley. I forgot. It was incredible.
Zion.
It was Zion. It was Zion.
So
and I was like,
Angel's Landing. Yeah.
Angel's Landing. I was like, how did you get that shot? Anyway.
But that is a blending. It's when you're blending reality. It's reality, but it's still blend, and
and
people love it.
Yeah, people love it, and I totally get it.
Yep. Cool. Another statement here. You don't need a new lens. You need a plan. And this kind of goes back to kind of where we were talking before. So what's your pre-shooting checklist before you spend $1? I think this is a big thing. It's like, I think a lot of times we have to go to B&H first when we get a new job, or or we're going on a trip. We go, well, what do I need from B&H?
Yeah.
I think it's better if we go through like what do I actually need as far as the checklist? So what checklist do you go through?
Well, funny story. So I do workshops. When I go on a workshop, I'm the one that has the least gear. They all have like five different lenses. I have like my 24-70 2.8, my Sony, and I have a Q3. So I have the Q3, Leica Q3 for during the day. I have the Sony 7R5 for the night. That's how I rock now, 24-70. I do have a 70-300, but just because sometimes that's the only way. I have a 12-24. I never use it, ever. And it was an expensive lens. I have an 85 1.4. I never use 50. I never use. I've got a whole bunch of prime I don't use. So it's just 24-70 and my 28.
So what would you say was on your checklist if you're going through?
Make sure I have a battery, SD card, and then
those are the important things.
And my Q3 and my Sony, and that's it. And
so you're like as simple as you can get. Like I'm on that plan anymore. I used to be like taking everything. Like Scott makes fun of me because I used to.
Yeah, and that was my big problem. I had this huge bag, and you're doing gym and photography at the same time.
Yep.
And
especially hiking up mountains and hiking around, and it's like, oh, I don't need to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was just talking to my buddy Ramy about that. Like somebody was complaining about the sharpness of a lens, and we were talking about like it probably is more your skills with editing raw files and post and all that is than it is because any of these new, and it was because it was a mirrorless Nikon lens that we both know is completely sharp.
Oh yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's usually a setting. I find a lot of people like they're complaining about the sharpness of their lens, but then you look at it and like you weren't on a tripod and you're shooting it at 1/10 of a second or 1/5 of a second, and it's like, well, that could be the problem.
Yeah, or some cameras, if you have stabilization on and when you're on a tripod, they can add, that's
the
a big one.
stabilization.
Or they're touching the camera while taking the shot. And,
so that's what we're saying. It's more technique than it is the gear.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
But we blame the gear and we think, there's going to be this magical piece of gear that's going to change everything.
Mary Ann Huddleston had a great question. Curious about what needs to be revealed to the public about the changes we make to our photos. Where's the line? Do we need to do it at all?
Oh, that's a good question.
My answer is absolutely no. You're an artist, and you don't reveal your secrets. Da Vinci, when he did the Mona Lisa, didn't say, I used that color, and I did this and I did that, or had to explain why the smile.
Agree. I mean, at the end of the day, like the only reason why sometimes I reveal, and I know you do the same, we're teaching, right?
Yeah.
If I'm teaching you, I can't like show you something and go, well, I took this photo, and then you're like, well, it's like the Peter Lick thing. Like, well, how'd you do that? Well, I took multiple photos over multiple times a day and blended them together. Like, if I don't tell you that. Now, on the flip side, when I submit a file to a client, I don't have to give a dissertation of how I got the photo. They just go, that's amazing. We're putting that on the wall.
Yeah,
or that's amazing. We're posting that on our business report or on our website.
Yeah, a little bragging moment. I got picked up out of 70 photographers to reshoot the entire city by the mayor of Vegas.
Yeah, that was a big one.
And when I shot, they were very upset because the mayor office wanted to see my photo every night. I had to go home, retouch, and like at least show the 2-3 of the day. And at first, I didn't do sky replacement. They were like, they don't look at all like your website. I was like, hold on a minute. And like 5 minutes later, I sent with like beautiful sky, and they were like, oh yeah, that's what we want.
Yeah, but I think the gut to as photographers, we start moving away from that, what we're actually known for sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we think, oh, we've got to be a purist, or we've got to be, and it's
I'm
like,
over that now.
me
Especially
too.
when I saw Peter
Me
Ling doing
too.
this, he was kind of my god, and I was like, oh, he's doing it too. I'm like, okay, fine. It's like, at the end of the day, we're trying to sell a beautiful photo to put in somebody's home,
I guess the point there is we all go through this roller coaster ride,
Yeah.
right? But it seems like everybody comes down on the other side of the roller coaster and goes, yeah, let's just be artists.
Yeah,
Let's just do it. Let's just be artists.
So one tricky thing is National Geographic. I worked twice for National Geographic. They bought 2 photos from me. And the legend used to be that you had to give the raw file away. And because they wanted no alteration on the photo. That was the legend. But when I worked for them, and I sold them 2 photos, and one of them had a big retouch on it. And I'm just saying, and it made it into the magazine, and they didn't ask me for the raw file.
I've had the same thing too. Smithsonian, National Geographic, and rocket stuff. But it's the same.
They didn't ask me for the raw file.
They didn't ask for the raw file, and there was retouching done to it, but it was really just removing imperfections that are going to be distracting to the photo.
Yeah, same. I wouldn't sell to National Geographic a scary play thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it because I know they don't like it.
Yeah.
No, I have to say, I'm doing a class right now for KelbyOne scary placement. I hate scary placement. I love going over and over to the same place and getting the right shot. But let's say I'm going to Page, Arizona, and I'm shooting the Horseshoe Bend, and I'm there for one day, and there was
you're rolling the dice if you're there for one day.
Yeah, and
I think probably looking at statistically, probably a more like a 75% chance you're going to get clear skies.
Exactly. And so in that case, I don't feel bad about scary placement, but I'm French. I spend months per year in Paris, so I have the luxury to come back over and over to get a shot, and I will. Like if there's a composition I really like, I want to get it because it's just a proudness thing. You know what I mean? I don't have to. It's just between me and me, basically.
Yeah, but there's a hunt. There's a
hunt, exactly.
When you part of photography, I think, is perseverance. That great photography takes perseverance. It takes you going out and trying. You've got the shot in your head. You see it, but it's just never the conditions haven't lined up yet.
Yeah.
And you keep on going after that shot and after that shot.
Exactly.
And then one day it works, and you're like, oh, perfect. And when I'm totally with you. Like if I don't have to do a sky replacement, that's beauty.
Yeah.
If I could do a Milky Way shot in one exposure, I love it.
Yeah.
But there's times when you're just met with the conditions weren't right.
Yeah.
So if I've gone 4,000, 8,000, or 12,000 miles to go somewhere, I'm not going to go, well, I'm not going to shoot. It was a bad day.
Yeah.
Like I'll try to make something out of nothing.
Exactly. 100%.
All right.
That's a good point. I'm trying to make something out of nothing.
Try to. This one, raw isn't a look, it's a starting line. So I want to know, what is your first 3 steps after importing before you even touch the raw? Like, what's your first 3 steps you do with the raw file?
Well, I use my presets. I have presets that I love, but I want to talk to you about raw files. So I have a Leica and a Sony.
Yes.
I don't know what Leica is doing with their raw file, but I can tell you they don't look like the Sony ones.
Right.
There is something about the Leica raw files where the contrast, the colors is completely like my.
You think
Sony,
that has to do with their raw profile? Are you using
100%.
their raw profile?
Not even. I think it has to do with
before that.
What something called the color science.
Color
Same
science,
thing with Hasselblad.
Yeah.
And I have a Fuji, I have Hasselblad, I have Leica, and I have Sony, and I have Canon. And I can tell you, the raw files don't look the same. They all have different color science. But it is a starting point, 100% to me, because you have to understand, when you don't shoot raw, like with your phone and you're shooting a JPEG or with like a low-end camera, the camera is doing like 256 different retouching points in real time.
It's editing the photo. You're
the
just
heck out of it.
You're letting basically their cookie cutter settings edit your photo.
Yeah, their preset, their profile.
Their profile.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's baked in. I like to say at the end of the day, like with RAW versus the JPEG, it's JPEG's like McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's like it's a burger. You can go there and it's a hamburger and it's going to taste the same everywhere, but it's a McDonald's hamburger. It's decent.
Yeah.
But then you can give those raw ingredients to a Michelin star chef and say, make me a burger.
Yeah.
And they're going to make an amazing burger. Or you can give those same ingredients to somebody who's never cooked before. They'll cook the file and it'll look overprocessed and it'll look trash. So it's like the raw file is just giving you the ingredients and you get to cook it. If you're not into cooking or you're not in processing, shoot JPEG
Yeah,
because it's going to be the cookie cutter editing.
Exactly.
It's going to do an okay job. Well, anyways, we have to take another break.
Let's do it.
When we come back, we got tons more we can be talking about here. So stick around. We'll see you in a sec.
Ever finally get someone in front of your camera and then you don't know what to do, you freeze up, or they don't look natural enough? I've got a class for you. My name is Vanessa Joy. I'm a Canon Explorer of Light, and I've been photographing weddings and portraits and humans for the past 28 years. In my class at KelbyOne, we'll be photographing female alone, male alone, and then of course the two of them together. I'm going to give you all the tips that you need for making sure that they're relaxed in front of the camera, making sure that they know where to put their hands, and that you can direct them in a way that not only gives them photos that look really good in your eyes, but in their eyes as well. I'm going to make sure that you feel confident directing the people that are in front of your camera so that you don't freeze up and not know what to do with them next. We will cover standing poses, sitting poses, and the biggest question that I get, what if my girl is taller than the guy? I will show you how to work with height differences and really come up with a bunch of creative poses that you can put in your arsenal and feel comfortable the next time you have someone in front of your camera. So come join me on my latest class and my first class at KelbyOne.com.
Hello, I'm Lisa Walsh, and I'm a professional photographer from Venice, Florida, and I've been selling prints online for 10 years, and I'm excited to tell you about my new class at KelbyOne, Marketing to Expand Your Business. So my first class was about how to sell your prints online using Fine Art America. This class, I'm going to show you how to easily expand your audience no matter what type of photography you do. This class is going to go deeper into marketing your images with strategies to gain clients, create meaningful connections, and build an audience that collects your work. Know what kinds of posts to make and what to write to attract and build relationships, and discover a very powerful tool I use to grow an audience very fast that stays connected with you. Come join me in my new class to market your photography and grow your business faster exclusively at KelbyOne.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by B&H Photo, the professional source since 1973.
All right, we're back.
We are back.
Let's keep on going because I
Yes.
think these are cool.
Yeah.
I got another one here that I think's an interesting one. There's this thing that I definitely believe this wholeheartedly. Like, why did we buy these huge mirrorless cameras or even full frame cameras if we're going to do that, or medium format cameras? Is if everything's sharp, nothing is the subject. How do you decide what earns your eye? Like, how do you decide also what f-stop you're going to use? Like, do you just try to get everything sharp, or do you try to actually have your subject sharp? Like, what is your process?
Well, the thing is, as I grow older as a photographer, I don't like to use a tripod. Like I love the freedom of walking around.
Yeah.
And not using, especially with my Leica camera. And I love shooting landscape with my Leica. I don't do the street photography that a lot of photographers do. So I often find myself shooting at 1.7. And so I have to pick my battles. You know, I put spot focus on, and I it's getting late, and I'm just having that sharp. And I love that. I love having one thing which is sharp. You know, having the contrast of sharpness and non-sharpness. You know, some people they would do stack focus and have this perfect focus photo all the time. I don't really care. I rather have a photo that's where only something is sharp and it's interesting and there's something than having to carry around my tripod all the time.
Yeah, I didn't know. That's my answer too, because I didn't know what your answer would be, and that's how I feel about it. Is like, it's just like I was saying. I think one of the things that happens is we feel like we have to have there's just times when it's nice to have everything in focus. The big time in my life I find that is when I'm doing ultra wide landscapes, when I'm like, say 2 or 3 feet, maybe a foot away from a foreground object that I'm putting big in my frame, that I'll need a focus stack because I can't get the foreground and the mountain all in focus because that whole scene is my subject. But I also don't want the clouds to be super sharp. I kind of want them to fall off. In fact, a lot of times I find myself softening the clouds and softening the background and kind of like, not adding as much sharpness. Yeah. So I think that's where I do a lot of selective sharpening as well. I don't really like sharpen the whole, especially aviation and rocket photography. I'm never sharpening everything. Yeah. I want the rocket or the jet to be sharp, and I want the rest of it to kind of be a little soft.
Yeah, it's a kind of contrast, sharp against, sort of like more soft. I love that.
So that's an interesting one. Yeah, I'm glad we agree. So we didn't have to argue on that one.
I think you think alike on. But, it's interesting because, like I see these people that have this preconceived idea. You have to have 5 lenses. You have to have this whole checklist. You know, if you don't have all of that, you're not a photographer. And that's not true. It's is at the end of the day is what photos are you getting? Are people liking your photos? Or do they want to buy them? That's really what matters,
So this is another one, because I'll have this come up a lot where people will say, well, I only shoot natural light. And natural light isn't an excuse to skip knowing lighting, right? Like, do you find yourself adding reflectors, flags, LEDs, anything like that in your photography, or do you just do natural light?
Well, when I shoot portrait, if there is if I shoot somebody outside, I kind of like working with flash outside. Yeah. But when I used to do interior design photography, a lot of people swear by flash. I hate flash in interior design photography.
I would agree.
And I don't do it.
Yeah. It can be done. It's very difficult to make it look good.
I don't know.
I even think it probably looks a little bit, like it doesn't look natural.
It doesn't look natural. Yeah. And again, I like the freedom of like no tripod, no flash, just one lens and, walking light. I love to hike. I love to do 20,000 steps in a day. So I need to go light. And that's why I like the whole Leica philosophy for that, because it's freedom.
So you're not anti-lighting. You like using lighting. You're just not, you don't use it much.
No, and unless I really want to go for a high-end portrait like Joel Grimes or Erik Almas, I love them both on and then I have all this flash and you're doing like somebody in the West like dressed as a cowboy and you have the whole background and you have this big flash and you take one photo without the flash, you can erase it in Photoshop and that's kind of cool too. It's it's kind of cool too. But my go-to setup is freedom.
Yeah, natural.
Freedom.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, and that's where, because I think one of the powers of, though, understanding lighting or lighting where you're bringing the lighting to the scene is that helps even with landscape photography of understanding direction of light. Or with street photography or understanding, again, the quality of light. Like if you have to mess around with natural light, you need to move your body and move the camera position to get the right light.
Yeah.
Right? So that's always interesting. So full frame isn't a preference, is a preference, not a rule, right? That basically, what shots in your portfolio do you say it has to be a full frame, or it has to be, in your case, sometimes a medium format?
No, not at all. I actually used to use medium format a lot, and then I got my camera installed on the Fuji GFX 100S, and then I replaced it with a Leica, which is not a medium format, because it was too heavy. You know, I love the photo. It's better than a Leica, but it was too heavy, and again, freedom, you know.
Yeah, so you want that freedom. You want that freedom to roam. So the sensor size is not really why you're picking the camera.
No, I pick, you know, I mean, what I like about, you know, somebody asked, can you explain why you use a different brand camera for different times of the day? Sony at night and Hasselblad. Now, it's Leica during the day. Yeah. Hasselblad, no. So Leica Q3 is a fixed 28mm 1.7. It's a very, you know, it's sharp all around. It never gets blurry. The focus system of Leica is insane. I can shoot, you know, up to, basically my rule is that if there's no water and no clouds, it's Leica. If there's water and clouds and I can do a bit of long exposure, then it's Sony. Okay. I don't do long exposure. That's my rule. Okay. But if I could just do the whole day with my Q3, I would. You know, I wouldn't do night photography with the Q3. You know, it's not made for that.
Yeah, it's not made for it.
But
you could probably do it. You could probably do it.
So during the day, I shoot mostly black and white because the light is boring. And but I look for, you know, I'm a big Alan Schaller fan, where he does this incredible composition with light, you know, where, you know, like in a metro station where everything is black and you just have like a light coming in, a beam of light, and then one guy is in a beam of light. And that kind of show, I love to do that during the day with a Leica, you know, just the during the day it's like hard compositions, you know, street photography, but really hard compositions, and then, you know, if there is no good clouds or water involved, I just keep going with the Leica. If there's water or clouds involved, then I do like the long exposure look. So then, you know, it's the whole zone.
The tripod setup, all that good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what's interesting about that topic. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people, like, for example, landscape. We were talking about landscape. Like, people, like we talked about before, they want everything sharp. Well, the bigger your sensor, the more you're going to have depth of field. Yeah. And the more you're going to have out of focus, right? Yeah. So that's where you do, like, that's an advantage of a cell phone, right? For a landscape is such a small sensor that pretty much everything's going to be in focus.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You could be in that ultra wide angle and be a foot away from something, and the foreground and the background are going to be in focus because the sensor's so small.
Yeah, exactly. It's tiny sensors.
Yeah.
But let me give you an example on the Sony versus Leica. So I just did a book on London, and it was really, there was some days that was just overcast, right? No good sunset, nothing. So when it's like this, the only time you can get a good shot is at the blue hour. That's the only interesting time of the day. But you can't take 5 photos during the blue hour because, you know, you have to move so fast. So what I did is, for these days, I had the Leica Q3. I would scout exactly the framing, and then I would ride a bike and be at 1.7, and I would just literally, because the blue hour is like, I like to shoot at the beginning of the blue hour, not at the end of the blue hour. Not too much contrast. So I had like 7 minutes, and I would just ride around London and get 4 or 5 photos, because that's the only production I could get during that day. So that's a goodie. But then some other nights, there was this beautiful sunset in London. I had some really good ones. Oh, I would put an ND10, Sony, boom, 30-second exposure, go all around the river, you know, the Thames River, and just get a whole bunch of shots. So that's my thought. If there's water and clouds, it's Sony. If there's no water and clouds, it's Leica.
Awesome. Well, there we go. So this is another one. I'll fix it in post starts in the field, right? And meaning, do you shoot differently because you know in post you can fix something? Like, do you look at a scene and go, I can't fix that here, but I'll fix it in post, but I'll shoot it a certain way so I can fix it in post?
Yes, absolutely. Mostly on scary placement, when I'm traveling through a place and like the subject is so incredible. I'm like, oh, if I had a sky, this would be like a National Geographic cover. So I just take the shot and I know I'm going to scary place, or something is. That's something that came out with AI, where you have like this incredible scene, but you got this car and the guy will not move. You know, I just take the shot. I know I can generate feel. Take it out. You know what I mean? So I know how I'm going to fix it in post, and so I shoot it anyway.
There you go. So Josh is asking, and then we got to take a couple questions here, so then we got to take a break. Josh is asking, can't you fix everything in focus problems with lens blur in Lightroom?
Nah.
No.
No, you got a motion blur. I mean, I know Topaz, can do some stuff, but like I can tell right away. Like that's one thing I found really hard to really get sharp photo. Like if you really move the camera, on a bit of a slow exposure, I find
you can do some miracles nowadays with changing focus and adding maybe some blur.
Yeah.
Adding
blur,
focus blur and all that stuff, and then sharpening with sharpening plugins. But it's always better to nail composition, lighting, and focus in the camera.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to be better. You're going to get better results in the post if you do that.
Absolutely.
Tom's asking, would it be better to have your main lens than rent lenses you need? Would it be better to have your main lenses than rent lenses you need for a photo trip? So I guess, is it better to own your lenses?
Oh yeah,
or to rent the lenses?
It happened to me last month. Yeah. I went to LA and I forgot my 70-300, and I had this idea. I wanted to go back and shoot I was doing a YouTube video of the observatory, with downtown compress, what I call the Terminator shot, which is a 200mm shot. So I went and ran a lens for that day because I forgot. But I have the lens that I need. That's like in the last 4 years. Or if I would go on safari, get a 600mm.
Yeah, you would probably rent for that.
I would rent that.
You're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I would say I think it's better. This is why it's better to figure out, like what Serge was talking about, like what lens do you need? That's where renting can come in handy, because then you can rent for a trip and figure out, like, for example, night photography. My night photography is pretty much a 15 to 35 f2.8. Like most of it. If it's probably that lens is probably going to be on my camera if I'm shooting night photography. So I know, I need to own that lens because that lens is always one that I'm going to have. But if there's like a specialty lens like you're talking about, like I don't really use 100mm macro, but I'm going to do macro. Like maybe I'd want to rent that to see would I actually use that. But then to your point, kind of getting your gear down to, like you said, really only 2 lenses that you're using, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where, when you can get down to that, it becomes easier to own your own lenses.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have to buy 12 lenses and you got to buy 2 lenses, well, the budget goes way down.
Yeah, I mean, I specialize in cityscape. That's like my main thing. Landscape is a secondary thing for me. So, cityscape 24-70, you're good.
All right. Awesome. Well, we got to take a break. We'll take a last break here, and then when we come back, we'll wrap up the show. We're going to be giving away some prizes in a second here, and then we'll wrap up the show, and we'll see you guys back here in a couple minutes.
I'm Richard Burnaby, and I spent the last 20 years chasing light and life across the wildest corners of the planet. And what I've learned is this: wildlife photography isn't about gear. It's not even about the animals. It's about connection. It's about presence. It's about telling a story that goes beyond the frame. In my new KelbyOne class, I'll show you how to approach wildlife in the field, from anticipating behavior to creating powerful compositions that include the environment, not just the subject. We'll talk gear, light, ethics, and most of all, how to make images that matter. So if you've ever wanted to make wildlife images that feel alive, not just seen, but felt, then this class is for you. Exclusively on KelbyOne.com.
You are about to experience the best thing any traveling photographer ever can, and that is insider tips, tricks, all the information that you need if you're thinking about going to Boston. The guy's name is John Dukes. He's been there a bunch of times, and you're about to see visual proof of an amazing trip to Boston.
Thank you, Larry. Yeah, I want to invite you on a journey through Beantown, Boston, Massachusetts. We're going to have so much fun with this class, and you will too. You will come prepared, ready to bring your camera, ready to come back with shots, not Instagram shots, but shots that you'll be proud of. Shots that you'll be able to show people when you get back and go, look, I captured this when I was there. We're going to talk about gear. We're going to talk about composition. We're going to talk about how to remove people from your shots that you don't want in there.
You will see fantastic places. And one of my favorite things about John's classes is all the hidden places. Those places that you don't know about. You're going to learn that and so much more. And it's only at KelbyOne.com.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the world's most compact tripod base.
And
All
we're
right,
back.
we're back, and we're going to be giving away some prizes here. So we've got, some prizes here. So we got the Platypod handle is going to Dan P, and then the Crust of Composition book is going to Claudia Balsadera, and then the Night Photography book is going to Paul Moore, and then the On One No Noise 2024 is going to Glenna Lamprey. And then the V-flat is going to Alex Phillips, or Alex Phillip, no S. Alex Phillip. Just email us over at gridprize@kelbyone.com. We'll verify information and then send you out your prize. But before we go, I know we're over time here, but before we go, Serge, where can they go learn more about you?
Photoserge.com. Photoserge.com. I do workshops. I have a lot of workshops. I'm actually going to New York. I got one seat left if somebody wants to come to New York with me. That's the only one you can buy. All the other ones are kind of sold out. But you can go on a waiting list. That's the only one I still have one spot left. But I'm doing Paris every year. I'm going to do Iceland. So there's a waiting list because they're all sold out. Because we have always people canceling at the last minute.
I love Iceland.
So if you don't want to come to New York, you can go on a waiting list for a workshop because they sell fast. That's what I do.
Awesome. Speaking of workshops, I got at the end of the month, I'll be releasing 2 more workshops next year for Milky Way. So we do Milky Way workshops. So MilkyWayWorkshops.com. And I've got a new it's not a new location for me, but a cool location that I'll be bringing people to for the first time. So that's
that's exciting.
Really neat. So
yeah, that's the guy to go to if you want to do night photography. I love his stuff.
That's coming out I hope by the end of the month.
Why did you get into night photography? Like what drove you to it? Like
honestly,
was it like overnight thing or
honestly what it is I love space. I love the universe. I love all that good stuff, and it's just basically like I just got into it. It also was good with my schedules because I work a lot during the day, and then at night I could kind of have fun and kind of do the fun stuff. So yeah, that's just what I got into. So
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. It was just the love for space. Night photography is my passion. The aerospace photography is what people a lot of times are contracting me to do or something. You know? So, but I also love that because I think it's very cool that we are exploring and pushing the limits of what humans can
I'm a big fan of that.
And I just think it's really neat and cool and. So I love it. And I love also, I tend to like challenges. And I think night photography is one of those where it's always a challenge. It's like, how do you approach it and how do you do it? But I'll tell you what, it's become, over the 20 years I've been doing it, it's become exponentially easier.
Oh, yes.
Which I love for everybody starting out. Like, it's amazing. You don't have to even struggle with, like, you read stuff online, like you got like stacking and all this stuff. It's like, we don't do a lot of that anymore because of noise reduction and different tools and the sensors and how good they are. And now tracking is so easy. Like I have this device. I was just at a workshop last month with Rami, and I had on one night 12 attendees tracking the Milky Way, which basically star tracking. So they were tracking the Milky Way, and I've never had that before. And it's because of the ease in which people can track nowadays.
That's so cool.
The technology is so easy. The techniques are so easy that it used to be like that was very elusive, very hard. And now it's like super simple, easy. And I love that. I love that we can not overcomplicate it for people.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's one of my favorite. It's just you know, like in Florida, there's nothing to shoot. Yeah, when I was in California, I used to go to.
I'll show you some cool shots around here.
Oh, yeah, you gotta show me.
I'll take you.
Because you know, I used to live like 2 hours away, 3 hours from Joshua National Park. I used to go there all the time.
I love Joshua Tree. It's very dark, but actually, let me see. I might have some stuff I can show you.
Yeah, Joshua National Park. I used to go. The first time I went there, if you've never done a night photography, I remember the first time I went there, I couldn't believe it was such a clear night. I could see the Milky Way with my own eyes, like, but very clearly, like just like in the photos, which you don't always have. But that my first experience was like, the Milky Way was like, bam! I couldn't believe it.
I don't know if you see, like these shots right here. So let's just open up because I can see that these are all from Florida. Let's go.
Yeah, show me Florida and night sky. That's
that's from Florida. Ooh. That's from Florida. That's from Florida.
Ooh.
That's 2 hours away from where we're sitting right now, right? That shot. That's a couple hours away. So, yeah, you can get stuff here.
Okay, well that's good to know.
It's good, yeah. So there you go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so we'll get you out there shooting. Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back next week. Scott, I believe will still be out next week, but we'll be here with another show. So we'll see y'all next week back here on the grid. And thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me, Erik.
We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate you guys. And we will see you next week here on the grid.
Bye bye. Au revoir.